Welcome to the Actor and the Engineer podcast. My name is Paul James. I come from the acting background.
And I'm Josh Knapp. I'm a broadcast engineer.
Here we go. Okay, first, we wanted to do Best Actor, and we spoke about that last week, but we've decided to talk about two films that are in the theater now instead, and then Best Actor will be the next podcast.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good.
Yeah. So the two films we're going to talk about are The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, which is a really long title, but I understand why they have to do it that way. The second movie is Nightcrawler.
Could we pick two more diverse films to talk about in one episode?
Yeah, they're both kind of depressing, though.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine like going to one and thinking, oh, Mockingjay was really great because the podcast said it was really great. I'm going to go see Nightcrawler. And then be aware.
They're for different crowds, I think. But I mean, I got something out of both of them. Before we talk specifically about either one, I was in the theater last night watching Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, and I saw the Star Wars trailer in the theater. Now, I had already seen it on my computer the day that it came out, the day after Thanksgiving. And I was wondering if you saw it in the theater and if you'd seen it before that and what
I did not see it in the theater, but I did see it online.
Okay.
And I thought it looks like a really cool teaser. People
agree.
have made way too much out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's apparently a controversy about the African-American guy being a stormtrooper.
It's great. No, but everything's perfect about that. Like, questions, that's all I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
All I want is questions.
Absolutely.
I don't want any answers.
The only thing I have about that is that I thought the stormtroopers were from the clone army, so where did the differences come from? But you know what? We have, 2 decades in between storylines, so maybe they're going to explain it, which is, you're right. It poses a question. And also, everybody's flipping out about the new lightsaber.
Yes.
I liked
about the physics of the lightsaber. But it's, I'll enjoy that stuff. I enjoy the discussions. But at the same time, I can step back and say, first of all, the first time I saw it, I was like, isn't that cool?
I thought so too.
And so secondly, I can back up and say like, okay, now how could that be used? Number one. Number two, is it practical? We could talk about that all day. But at the same time, my initial reaction is, wow, that's really cool.
I thought so too. And I think it's going to spin maybe. I'm not sure. Who knows?
I have no idea.
But I thought it was kind of a new evolution of it.
And I don't feel like they were trying to reach same thing with the double lightsaber. When I saw that as like a 17-year-old kid in high school, my brain melted.
Yeah,
I was like, that's insane. And the way they used it, the way Darth Maul used it in the movie, that's great. I mean, I have issues like everybody does, I guess, with episode 1. But I still think like that lightsaber battle is great.
Agreed.
It's
the
so
best
much
part
fun.
of that film.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when we see this new lightsaber and we have this kind of brooding voiceover, I mean, it's only a few lines.
Yeah.
But that's all you need. And then hearing the John Williams Star Wars theme with seeing the Millennium Falcon for the first time in, I don't know. I mean, I guess the last time it was shown was 83 in Return of the Jedi. Because it wasn't in any of the prequels.
Yeah, you're right.
Because there's no Han Solo,
You're
there's
right.
no Chewbacca, there's none of that.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
That is the first time that's been on screen in a new movie since 1983.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
So it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I like J.J. Abrams too. And I think that hearing about all the practical effects that they're doing, there's definitely going to be CGI in there, but there's still going to be a good chunk of practical effects as far as like sets and things are concerned. It's not going to be people walking in front of, 40-foot green screens and then everything gets painted in later on. It's not going to be that. It's going to be real.
He has the hardest job so far because the prequels, they didn't really match up with the technology of the original 3 or 3, 4, and 5 because they couldn't, obviously.
It's 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6. Thank you. But at the same time, now he has to match all the worlds together. So how's he going to do that? You know? And I guess that 1, 2, and 3 were before the big war, so everything was new and shiny, and you saw different worlds that you didn't see in 4, 5, and 6. So I can't imagine as a creative person how you would blend the worlds together. But, he came out with that still photograph of him on the set in Tatooine. And it looks just like all of the films look.
It
so
does. It looks like the cantina's like right next to him, down the street a little bit.
So far, I have no, like you said, questions, but good questions. Like what's going to happen there, and what's that all about? Why does that guy kind of look the Darth Vader, Darth Maul guy with the lightsaber kind of looks like he's weak and stumbling a little bit. I'm not sure. It looks like he's coming back from something.
So and it's probably going to be Adam Driver, just considering how tall he is and all that. It's probably going to be Adam Driver.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a Sith something.
Right.
But and then you see Oscar Isaac for a split second in an X-Wing.
Right.
And so we know he's also wearing the Rebel garb, which you would think after Return of the Jedi,
you wouldn't have to
think that the Empire's gone.
Right. You're done.
But it's not.
Right.
Because there's still rebels and still rebel garb and all that stuff. So something's happened between the end of 6 and this movie, and they're gonna fill it in, and it's gonna be exciting, and I'm excited.
Yeah, you can't not be. I think the first 3, 1, 2, and 3 got progressively better, much better.
I agree.
They still don't match the original 4, 5, and 6.
No, yeah.
But this one, there's been such a gap of time now, and the prequels were sort of a letdown overall. So you can't have anything but expectations or heightened expectations.
And it's all new stuff.
Yeah.
As far as like the characters and the people that. Even the voiceovers, Andy Serkis, so he's never been in, it's not even like it's, the old Emperor or, Obi-Wan Kenobi from a flashback or something like that. It is, it's all new. We know that the big three are in this movie. We know that Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher are in this movie, but we didn't see any of them in there, which is great.
I bet you won't see any of them until you see the film.
Yeah, and I hope not. The other thing I was thinking about is like, this is a great teaser, but do I want to see the full-length theatrical trailer? Like, I don't know. I think it might be exciting to not, although it might be really hard to stay away from it. But
well, we did it for Interstellar. We did pretty good. We did pretty good.
Different.
Yeah, you're right.
thing.
It's different. There's
different. No culture behind Interstellar before it came out.
You're right.
But there is definitely there's an undeniable culture behind this whole thing. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna fall in between. I'm not sure. I'm gonna try not to watch, but if it happens when I go to a movie and it's there, oh well, darn. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into the Hunger Games Mockingjay
Part 1.
Part 1 of 2. They just need to keep extending that name, longest name of a movie ever. Directed by Francis Lawrence, who did I Am Legend, which I really liked up until the very end.
I did too. Agreed.
And that was kind of crappy, and maybe that's not even necessarily his fault, but I did like that movie. And I'll give a quick synopsis. The synopsis on IMDb, I'm glad I read this beforehand, not so good, but there's another one, a little bit like a user synopsis, which was much better. With the games now destroyed and in pieces, Katniss Everdeen, along with Gale, Finnick, and Beetee, now end up in the so-thought destroyed District 13. Under the leadership of President Coin and the advice of her friends, Katniss becomes the Mockingjay and the symbol of rebellion for the people.
Yeah, it's good.
Now, what I just read, if you came in without seeing the other two movies, you would be completely lost.
Absolutely.
And so I want to start off this discussion by a more general discussion of the way that the way that movies are going, where you've got properties and you've got sequels and you've got extended storytelling, and this is happening in TV too, but you've got extended storytelling that is so serialized and so, has such a strong through line that if you didn't see the first however many episodes of this show, or you didn't see the first two movies, you're completely lost. And they don't even make an attempt at getting people up to speed. So are you okay with that?
It's funny that's the first thing that you brought up, because I sit there and wonder that myself when I'm watching it. I read the books. Mm-hmm. I've seen the first 2 movies. Actually, I've only read the books once, but I've seen both movies a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering that. I was thinking to myself, because we talked about this with the Lord of the Rings. Could you watch, if you decided to watch all the best pictures, throughout your lifetime, and you got to Lord of the Rings,
Return of the King,
would you be able to sit there and watch that? I have rationalized enough of it to say I think you could.
I would agree with you. Definitely more than this movie.
Absolutely, hands down, I agree with that too.
Yep.
You do not know what's going on if you have not seen the other two films. Am I okay with that? Not necessarily. There used to be a time when they could write a movie that had a beginning, middle, and end, and it could be part 1, part 2, or part 3.
Mm-hmm.
The Toy Stories films do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're all independent, but they're all interlocked. They're not as interlocked as these films are. Like, you don't really need the second film in order to tell the first story and so forth and so on, but they are independent of themselves. And I was wondering that, can you tell a story where you can have a part 3, but you can still tell the story for somebody who's never seen it before? I don't know. I mean, it's not, it feels like they didn't even try to make that effort here.
And that's what just kind of bugged me about it, because I took Steph last night.
Right.
She saw a little bit of the first Hunger Games, didn't see the second one at all. And we were at dinner beforehand, and I had to explain the whole thing. I'm so glad I did, because she would have been so completely lost. The movie just starts off right in the middle of something.
Right.
And keeps going. And then, I mean, there's not too many spoilers, but it just kind of stops. It doesn't end. It doesn't. I mean, it's not even like, you could even say like maybe it's a cliffhanger like the end of a TV show, like at the end of a TV show, but not really.
I think it ended better for part 1 of 2-part last movie, like the last Harry Potter film was broken up. The last Harry Potter book was broken up into 2 parts. And I think this one ended better than it began. But in the era of starting with the positive, I want to first start with, I thought the film looked great. I thought that it looked like a believable world.
It did.
It was gray. It was gloomy. Now, taking all that stuff that we just talked about, you might, if you've never seen them, get a sense of the emotional balance or emotional disruption that they're going through, especially through her performance.
Yeah.
Once again, she's just...
I got scared, though. She's good. And I got scared 2 times. One, she was like waking up.
Yep.
Exactly.
And I know the other moment. So we're going right to the not so good. No.
So
wait, let's finish that
right.
thought. You're
Okay.
going to talk about when she was waking up.
And it was like, I felt like I could have done it better, and I'm a horrible actor.
Okay, and I'm never going to say that, but I agree. And the other moment was when she lost both of the men, when she was going, I'm going to lose both of them. I'm going to lose both of them. You're right. She was off. Was that the second moment?
Well, the second moment, I started off getting, it was when she is doing the propaganda film, and then I was just like, I felt so bad that like she was just doing these horrible line readings, and then I realized, I'm like, she's amazing, right? Because she is able to purposefully act badly, very well.
Yeah.
I mean, and it did not seem over the top. It didn't seem like she, it's like what you say all the time about like playing drunk.
Yeah.
What is it to play drunk? You need to try to play not drunk.
Exactly.
And I think that's what she was doing. She was trying to play someone who's never acted before, who's doing what that person thinks is acting.
Right.
And it worked perfectly. And so I was able to turn around. After that point, I was able to really appreciate her acting a lot more.
Okay, so going back to the positive, I was wondering when that moment happened when she woke up, and I'm with you 100% on that, because it was like, what was that? Mm-hmm. It was weak. But I'm wondering if that's her or the way that they shot it and the way that they cut it. Because if they had come in, faded in, or if they had dreamlike blurred the exposure of the film
Yeah.
and then let the scene come clearer as she was waking up. I think it was a combination of both, because I didn't buy for a split second that she was asleep and dreaming and then wait. Yeah, it was really weak. It's probably the weakest moment she's ever had on film in general. But I'm wondering, and we can talk about this in Nightcrawler later on, about the way things look and are perceived in film by the way that they're shot. Because I want to talk about Rene Russo later on about her aging and the way that she looks and the way that they shoot her. I think they purposely did things in Nightcrawler to make her look better in certain scenes and not so great in other scenes. And I think it was on purpose.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if the director had shot this, if the camera angle had come up from her feet up to the bed, or it's just this straight on shot. It's clipped in, it comes in, and all of a sudden she wakes up. It's jarring on every level. So I'm
Yeah.
going to say it's 65% her performance and the rest is
The setting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And so what did you think about Julianne Moore?
Well, I read the book, so I was interested to see how she was going to play. I thought, boy, we're just starting off with all of the not so great stuff.
Oh, well,
because
we can back up.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. It's okay. We know where we're coming from when we're watching movies. We're not here to say this movie sucked or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We're here to try to understand why people made the choices that they made, and did the choices serve the story well. So on that basis, I thought she was going to be the perfect choice for this character.
And so she's playing the president of the rebels, basically. I mean, that's kind of what she's doing. She's
Yes.
playing the president of District 13.
And you can go back and forth about whether or not a book is better than a film. I think they're two different genres. They're two different things. Genres? No, not genres.
They're two different
mediums.
forms. Yeah, mediums, yeah.
Yeah. So you can never really judge one or the other, but your imagination takes over when you're reading a book. And for me, that character and Julianne Moore's performance is the least like what I imagined when I was reading the books. Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence is dead on. Peeta's dead on. The sister, the mother, Philip Seymour Hoffman, dead on. Seneca Crane from the first film, Donald Sutherland, dead on. And if they weren't what I imagined, they have now taken over what my imagination. I saw her much more stern, much more rigid, and it's like she was that for a while, but then that last speech that she had, the whole "we've had a victory" type of speech that she had, I don't know, there was something off about it for me. It didn't, I don't know, she all of a sudden became Julianne Moore again. In the beginning of the film, you buy her as the president, you buy her as the person who's taken over. I think they needed to do a little bit more explanation of how District 13 survived and how she became president, because you're like, wait, aren't we supposed to be against the president and the Capitol? Wait, I've read the book and I'm a bit confused. So overall, I thought that she did okay. And I love Julianne Moore. We've talked about her a million times. I love her. But there is a concrete coldness to her in the book, in my opinion, which balanced very well with the concrete coldness of the environment that they were in, the situation that they were in, what she was asking people to do. The scene, I'll give you an example of where I thought she hit it dead on, when Katniss comes to ask for the demands that she wants.
Yes.
And she goes, no.
Yep.
That to me was President Coin. But lots of other things, they gave her too much of a heart. They gave her too much of an emotional center. She's very focused and I didn't like her as a character in the book because I thought she was too focused. So overall, I thought she did okay, but I thought it was a miss. What'd you think?
I'm kind of along the same lines. It didn't seem like she added anything to me, to the role. Whereas that same scene that you're talking about where Katniss comes with her demands, and you've got Jennifer Lawrence, Julianne Moore, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, and that's kind of a powerhouse right there. And both of the other actors rose to, got the most, they squeezed the most out of that, wet towel or whatever that was their character, and made it something more than what was on the page. And Julianne Moore never really, to me, she never really seemed to do that. But in that same scene with Philip Seymour Hoffman, it made me see him like I've seen him in other movies. I mean, that same scene, he's like, where he's like, that's the Katniss that I was telling you about. That's the Mockingjay I was telling you about.
There it is. He says, there it is.
And there's certain scenes that Philip Seymour Hoffman has done. We haven't really talked about him specifically, but where he's done that, he does kind of like go up to this like higher plane. That was just like a flavor, but it made me think of the
Punch
Drunk Love, and it also made me think of another Philip Seymour Hoffman movie that I don't think you've seen yet, Hard Eight or Sydney, and that he has a very small scene in there, and he just blows it out of the water, and I don't even know how much of it is ad-libbed. I think a good chunk of it's ad-libbed, but it's amazing. And he's a kid, and not a kid, but he's whatever, 23 or something. I mean, he's just starting off. I think he'd done like School Ties, and there was another movie that I'd seen him in before that. But Talented Mr. Ripley.
Well, that's
was
after
that same year. I thought it was 97. No, it was 99. You're right.
Yeah.
So anyway, this one came out in 97.
I think Son of a Woman is one of his first, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he did another one with Brendan Fraser where he was like a school kid.
Isn't that School Ties?
School Ties, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
where
that's
Brendan
the one
Fraser
I'm thinking
plays the Jewish kid who doesn't want people to know.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Matt
then-
Damon's in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. And then he also was, I guess you're saying I can't remember what he was in Son of a Woman. Was it also like a jerky kind of a
absolutely.
preppy guy?
Yeah. He's the guy who kind of lies about the situation, gets Chris O'Donnell in trouble.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a big scene at the end with him and Al Pacino, as a matter of fact. It put Philip Seymour Hoffman on the map.
That's great. I think I saw that when it came out on like videotape back then.
Yeah.
And then I haven't seen it since then.
But you're absolutely right. There's something about the way that Philip Seymour Hoffman and Jennifer Lawrence too, they're electrifying. I'll give you an example of where I thought Julianne Moore could have risen to the occasion, and she, it's kind of hard pressed for me to talk about her and not be complimentary because she's so great all of the time. There was something not right about her. It was a miscasting job, I think.
Maybe.
You know who would have played the part great? Cherry Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love Cherry Jones.
Yeah, there you go.
Matt Damon's mom in Ocean's 12.
There you go. Yeah. Small world. But 6 Degrees. You remember the moment when the Capitol is bombing District 13, and then she realizes that they're actually targeting things that are, when their planes are leaving and doing stuff, they're targeting that.
Or if they're firing from that position, then they're targeting only that one, so that they have no idea where all of their stuff. The Capitol has no idea where all of District 13 stuff is.
Right, and she discovers that, and she does it in this kind of discovery way. Oh wait, they're targeting our such and such. She should have been much more militant, in my opinion. I didn't buy her as the leader of a military that could take on the Capitol, and you need to. And she is cold-blooded in the book to the point where you're like, okay, that's justifiable because she has this whole Zion. I'm calling it the Zion world now. All these underground levels of bunkers of people living in a circle like in The Matrix. Yeah, it reminded me of that. But it's like that in the book too, so I don't have a problem with that. But in order for me to buy into the fact that this district could have done what they have done with the leader that they have done it under, she needed to be much more militant, much more distant and cold and very calculated and very almost to the point where you're going, I don't know if I want to follow her either. And she looked the part. But I think it's miscasting. I don't think it's her fault. I just think look at me trying to justify not giving Julianne Moore a bad review, but she missed the mark for me.
I also read that her two daughters are like really big in the books, and they really wanted her to, I don't know if she went to the producers in the movie and said, I want to be in this movie, or if they came to her and said, and she was like, well, my kids do like it. So
when I heard she was cast, I was like, it's perfect.
Oh, okay.
It's perfect. But she just didn't pull. I'm trying to think of another movie she's pulled this out of. I've seen it in her. She has this quality in her where she can be very stern and very,
almost emotionless.
Yes, exactly. And she had too much. I don't know what it was. I'm going to have to think about it for a while. But anyway, we can continue on with something else.
That's fine. I thought that Josh Hutcherson lost a bunch of weight.
I think
or
that's
they did
CGI.
CG. Okay,
Yeah, that's
I hope
CGI.
it was because his neck looked crazy small.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like people haven't done it before, but still, yeah.
No, that's CGI.
Okay, it
Because
looks good then because I mean, it never took me out of the movie.
No.
But yeah. So and I mean, Stanley Tucci's great. He was in it for like a couple of scenes.
It's always great,
I
though.
love that guy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, he's on point because he's the reminder of why you don't like the Capitol.
He's the mouthpiece
Yes.
of the Capitol.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, I thought he was on point too. As a movie overall, how did you feel about it? Like, were you entertained? You did not read the books.
Okay, so I read 1 and 2.
Okay, but you
and
have
then I read like the first like 20 pages of the third one. So I knew that at the very beginning of the movie, she goes to see District 12, which has been decimated.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that, but then after that, didn't know what was going to happen. And so as far as the subject of the movie, the subject matter of the movie, it was interesting, I guess. But the whole time, I knew I wasn't going to be satisfied at the end of this 2-hour-long journey, and that just grated on me the whole time. And maybe that was me going into it that way, and I'm not even necessarily judging the craft of the making of the movie or the subject matter of the movie. I'm kind of sitting there and stewing, and I still am stewing about the situation. I paid $10 to see the middle of a movie. And I've got to either get over it or, not go see these movies and be fine with how, with other people being fine with it. But to me, it's like I've got to now wait another. It's one thing when you've got fully formed movies like the Star Wars movies that we just talked about, where maybe that's not true. I don't know. I really like Empire Strikes Back. But it does kind of end on what's happening next? You kind of have a little bit of a resolution. Luke gets his hand back, and Han Solo's trapped in carbonite, and everybody else seems to be okay. But that's kind of it.
Well, it's on the top list. It's on number 1 on everybody's list of movies that end on a down note.
It does.
It does.
But I've been able. I mean, by the time I was able to enjoy movies, I could just throw in or see, Return of the Jedi, right after that and see the resolution of that. And so now I know, like, okay, I'm going to have to wait, whatever, a year. I don't know when the next one's coming out. When does part 2 come out?
Probably a year.
So a year.
Usually they do it. Well, they did The Matrix six months apart from each other. So I don't know. They broke that pattern. So usually it's a year. Usually it's around the holidays.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So I'm going to have to wait another year.
It could be summertime.
For the next movie. But so that whole thing, I think right now, hate to say this, but I think right now I probably can't. I can't easily, recommend it or say. I can't say my true feelings on it because I'm still kind of like ticked off that.
Really? See, I'm not. See, I kind of am on an opposite page than you are. I actually was satisfied with it. I thought it, like I said, ended better than it began. I thought that this was the best way to end it because I kept wondering where are they going to end it?
Break it up?
And then when I realized that they were going to end it with bringing Peeta back, I was like, oh no, that's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Because
spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I mean, you got to know it's gonna happen. Well, maybe you don't. I guess if you
haven't read the books, but yeah.
I forgot about that actually, and it's been a couple years since I read the book anyway. So, and I never reread them until after I see the movie again, or first see the movie and then I'll reread them. Like I read the last Harry Potter book again after seeing part 1 and part 2.
Oh, cool.
I actually think that's a good example of the first part not ending so well. And the Lord of the Rings is another one. The first one does not end very well. It's not.
Are you talking about Hobbit or are you talking
No,
about
the Fellowship. Yeah, the Fellowship ends with this very ambiguous ending, and you're like, oh wait, you kind of think something else is going to happen, and because it's the ending of the first part of a 3-part story.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to the point, and I think this is the point we should resolve our conversation with, and the fact that they are not writing part 1 all encompassing in part one. Beginning, middle to end can stand as a movie by itself. Part two does the same thing. Part three, they're not doing that.
No.
They're expecting you to know the story.
Yep.
They're not. But I'll be honest with you, I thought this ended better than most of those scenarios have. Most of those movies. But you should see your face. Your face is all tight and
Well.
yeah. I get it. I see what you're saying, but for me, I was fine with it.
You know, and it's crazy because usually I'm all about like having people, you know, expecting something out of your audience. Like I love it when the person who is creating this art, whatever it is, expects something from me as the viewer of the art or the person experiencing that art.
Yeah, you're a participant.
Exactly. That's why, I mean, like, even things like Banksy, you know, like, you have to have a certain level of understanding of culture and of economics, even, of just things that are going on or in the world around you to appreciate what he's doing. Or a lot of these other movies, I mean, you got, or TV shows, House of Cards, things like that, where if you have a particular level of understanding on that particular subject, then you get more out of it. Or music, if you understand how complex a certain chord progression is, then you're going to be like, oh, that's actually really difficult what that person just did there. Whereas if you don't know about that, then you might just be like, oh yeah, it sounds kind of cool. So it's one of those things where I love it when people who make art expect something out of their audience, but these people who made this movie expect a lot from their audience. They expect them to see the other movies. They expect them to, you know, not expect a normal, you know, 3-act structure in their movie, and they are just saying like, this is what it is, and you know, let's go. You know, I'm not going to explain anything that's happened up to now, and I'm not going to explain anything, you know, that's happening. She plays with that pearl throughout the movie. I didn't even know what that was because I saw Catching Fire 2 months ago. That's a pearl that PETA gave her.
Yeah.
And there's no like, I mean, I'm not even saying that they should have said like, wow, this pearl that PETA gave me really reminds me of PETA. Like, that's kind of on the nose. But they do it a little bit. They do that a little bit, not with that specific one. But here, it's interesting. I thought you were saying something else about having expectations from your audience. My thing about that is that as an audience member, I should have an open mind, open heart to the experience of what the filmmaker is the story that they're trying to tell, mm-hmm. or the piece of art that they're presenting, or whatever, the piece of music. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I need to know what the chord progression is to understand that, oh, that's really hard to do. If you do that right, you're going to feel that. That's true.
On some kind of level, mm-hmm. you're going to feel that. And I thought you were saying that the filmmakers expect you to be open-minded to their storytelling, and this falls short because they don't do a great job of storytelling, or he or they, meaning the writers, don't do a great job of the storytelling. So you're part of being the participant as the audience member is you're putting yourself into it, and you're ready to receive it, but it's lacking something.
It's all business.
Yeah, it is.
It's all business.
You're right. You're exactly right.
And that part kind of, I mean, even though Jennifer Lawrence is great in it.
Which makes actually her emotional moments seem a little wonky.
Yeah.
Because it is so...
You're kind of seeing past the artifice of, like, yes, these people are making a movie, but ultimately they're just making this movie so that you see the next movie.
See, I don't feel that way. I see what you're saying, but I didn't feel that way.
I'm not saying from a business standpoint. What I'm saying is that, like, they're making this movie because if they don't make this movie, then the next movie is not going to make any sense. And they're not making this movie because there's a story to be told in this particular movie. They're making this movie because there's a story to be told over 4 movies. Well,
no, I see why you're saying that, but I don't agree with that. Okay. I think this story is about her becoming the Mockingjay, and that's what it's about. And it's about the conflicts that happen when she decides or is in decision about influx. She's not being decisive about what she's going to do. That's why they talk about, when you were saying when she was a great actress acting like a bad actress.
Yeah.
The best moments are her, off the cuff moments when she sees the District 12 for the first time. Yeah. You burn, we burn, we burn, you burn, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about her fitting into her role. What's missing for me, and I think what you're trying to say, or what I'm interpreting that you're trying to say, is that there wasn't enough conflict in herself to go, wait, do I want to be this symbol? Do I not want to be this symbol? Should I be this symbol? Do I have enough at stake? Am I still mad at the president as much as I should be? It's all kind of glossed over to where you're not emotionally invested in it. So I see why you're having all of those thoughts instead of the thoughts about the story that they were trying to tell. I get it. I get where you're coming from. I'm a little bit in disagreement with that, though.
That's fine. So. Yeah, no, and so, I mean, I guess I don't really have much else to say about it. I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry.
That's fine. Let's put it this way. When people go, what did you see this year that really excited you? It's not going to come to mind.
Not for me, no.
Yeah, it's not going to come to mind. Birdman comes to mind.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Fury comes to mind.
Exactly.
This next film that we're going to talk about comes to mind. Yeah, so.
All right, so speaking of that, well, I guess we could say, like, do you recommend people going to see? I mean, see, I don't even get into it, but because I can't even say that.
This is why we should film this, because your expression right there is priceless, dude.
You're going to say, what me and you were going to say is that, yes, I recommend you seeing it if you've seen the other two movies, if you've read the books, and if you want to see the next one.
That's exactly what I would say. But that's okay. You see, from my humble opinion, need to evolve into the fact that sometimes films are not going to satisfy you because you don't really like to talk about movies that don't satisfy you. You're like, why would I waste my time? Yeah. I wasted my time watching the movie. Why am I wasting my time talking about it? Well, as an analytical film goer, you're going to have to accept the fact that things are not you. I'm just saying second person. You're going to have to accept the fact that it's not just always going to work. So you've got to grow from that. Like, my imagination takes over and I re-edit the film in my head, and that's exciting for me, or I redo something inside my head. The thing that's so frustrating for you is the fact that this film is so void of anything that your imagination doesn't even want to play into it. You don't even want to try to rework it. So would I recommend people to go see it? I will exactly say what you just said. If you've read the books and if you're interested in this story, then yes, see it. But if you were to just go and see it, you would be so mad at us for telling you to go see it.
That's right. So this next movie is a standalone movie. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's
You're hilarious, dude. That was funny.
And it's called Nightcrawler. I'll give a quick synopsis. When Lou Bloom, a driven man desperate for work, muscles into the world of LA crime journalism, he blurs the lines between observer and participant to become the star of his own story. Aiding him in his effort is Nina, a TV news veteran. Written and directed by Dan Gilroy.
Tony Gilroy, as in Michael Clayton.
Tony Gilroy's brother.
Awesome.
And his fraternal twin brother, Dan Gilroy's fraternal twin brother, edited the movie.
Awesome.
Has been an editor for a long time. So, yeah, all the same guys. So they've all been in the industry for a while, at least like 20 years, I think. So I think this is the first one that Dan Gilroy has directed, and it is, yes. So this is the first movie that he's directed, but he has written, he wrote Real Steel, and he helped writing The Fall, which was the Tarsem movie with Lee Pace in it. Have you seen that? It's a great movie.
No.
I mean, it's got some issues, but it's visually stunning. So yeah, that's definitely one that I really think you should check out. And he wrote Born Legacy with Tony Gilroy.
Oh, interesting.
So those guys work together, I think, fairly regularly. So I was so interested in this movie from the trailer, just from the subject matter, because I work at a television station. Now, I don't work at a television station like the particular television station they're talking about, and I don't work in LA, which is a whole nother beast. I mean, literally. It's
good
a
word.
Beast. Yeah. And so, well, not literally, figuratively, it's a beast. But anyway, so... So, I guess we could start with Jake Gyllenhaal. Why don't you talk about him?
He's going to receive his second Oscar nomination, and I think he deserves it. Did you notice that in the trailer, he says that tagline like 4 times, but only says it once in the film?
It's genius.
Brilliant. I'm so glad we're on page with this. Same page. He is physically, emotionally, cadence, volume, tone, facial expressions, completely different than I've ever seen him. The way he walks, the way it's unnerving. I kept trying to see him. I knew you can hear that it's Jake Gyllenhaal. Like, I don't think you would not recognize him if you heard it, but
he looks like the ghost of Jake Gyllenhaal.
He looks like the mirrored image of the worst case scenario if Jake Gyllenhaal, I don't know Jake Gyllenhaal as a person, but from his films, he seems to be confident, outgoing, a little lighthearted because he has a sense of humor. I've seen him on talk shows and stuff like that. This person, where that came from, I have no idea. I'll tell you the truth. I'm a little scared of him now. Like, if he walked in here right
Jake
now,
Gyllenhaal?
Yes. If he walked in here right now, I wouldn't be nervous that it was Jake Gyllenhaal, Mr. Academy Award nominee, and I thought he should have won for Brokeback Mountain. That's not what made me nervous. The fact that he tapped into whatever he tapped, where did that come from in him?
So you're saying that he physically did this stuff and had these mannerisms, and you're saying that that's the scary part about him.
Absolutely.
Not that there's a real person out there that's like this, but that someone, a real person, can do that and make that come to life.
Have you ever seen any angle in any movie that Jake Gyllenhaal has been in that would have indicated that he could have pulled this character off? His focus, his determination, yes, his concentration, yes, all that stuff. Focus. He was so focused.
Well, if you look at him in Zodiac, which I know you said you only seen a couple times.
I saw it twice.
Okay, so I've seen it a bunch. If you look at him in Zodiac, he does have that singular focus, but the scary part about this character is that this character doesn't necessarily have a lifelong dream of being on TV or, any of those things. He's looking for something to pour his maniacal,
what is the word? I cannot think of a word to describe this character that is definitive.
He's disassociated. I mean, he has no empathy. He has no sympathy. He's separate. He's cut off from humanity.
But is he sociopathic? Because the definition of a sociopath is that they have no emotional connection, or they feel nothing for another human being or another person's situation or an animal. Or a lot of sociopaths,
serial killers,
start off killing animals and doing that kind of stuff because they are disconnected, disassociated. That's a good word. But he manipulates his emotions for his benefit at the moment it's happening. I've never seen a character like this in film. I want to say one more thing really quick. I think that the writer, when they watched his first take, went, that's exactly what I was looking for. It's on the page, but he didn't bring anything to it that wasn't already there. I think that was the perfect meld between actor and script. Coming together.
It is. It's a great combination. Exactly what you said. It's a great combination between new and exciting and original script, which we talked about last week. How there's really not that many original scripts out there, or original premises out there,
or even just a new take on something that's already been told, a new take on a different story or same story. I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, and so you've got that, plus you've got this particular actor who's able to tap into something, like you said, that is
scary,
insane, and so that right there is enough for me. I mean, right off the bat, I'm just gonna say that I would definitely recommend this to someone who is willing to put themselves through. It's not, I mean, it's not a Bronson. It's not a, it's not that trying of a movie, especially now that, you can see a lot of, crazy stuff on the internet, and there are news outlets that do, I mean, it's all, bad news all the time, shootings and all that stuff. I mean, this is an extreme version of that, but it's a good kind of like magnifying glass to how we consume media and what we expect from media and what the industry thinks of its viewers. And I think that right there is worth more than enough to see the movie. And I mean, I'm guessing you would recommend it too, because I want to get into
one of the best of the year.
Yeah, I want to get into specifics on the movie. So we may talk about spoilers, but you should definitely see this movie if you're at all interested in an amazing performance.
Here's the thing about spoilers with a film like this. Even if we described it word for word, what we saw, it's such a strong performance. It's such a strong film. It's such a different voice. It's such a new and interesting story. I never heard of a Nightcrawler before. I never heard of that before. I know
we do have stringers. There are stringers in the industry. Yes,
and I've heard those terms, but I didn't really know what it meant. And I certainly have never seen a movie about them or anything like that to a degree. It's not some new and inventive, creative Interstellar, for lack of a better example. It's not like that. It's just this world has existed for a while, but nobody's ever told these people's stories, and this is how they chose to tell this story. So even if we talked about it and acted it out scene by scene, it would not ruin it for anybody, because you have to
experience it.
Yeah, and it's an experience.
It is.
I think I was in denial about it because the trailer didn't do anything for me. I was not interested.
Oh, really?
Not at all.
Huh.
Not at all. I thought, I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm behind him 100% on almost everything that he does, but I'll wait. I'll see what. But then he started getting SAG nominations and Golden Globe nominations. Not so much that. There was just this instinct. It's time now for you to see this film, because it's been out for 4 or 5 weeks.
It has.
Yeah. And I was right, because in the first 5 minutes of his performance, I was like, oh, man, I'm going to live in this world for the next 2 hours, and this guy's not going to let up.
Well, and the only time that he really physically assaults someone in a traditional manner is at the very beginning of the movie.
And it's shot so well that you don't even know what happened, but you do know what happened. Mm-hmm. It's very well it's very well done.
It's what's not in the frame. And
yes, exactly.
It's perfect.
It's the opposite of Mockingjay.
It's true.
It's so, you used on the nose earlier when we were talking about Mockingjay. I think everything is so on the nose. You, as a participant, yet again, don't get to give anything to it as an imagination or where's this going or trying to figure it out. Nightcrawler, I had no idea where it was going, nor did I try to figure out where it was going. I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm pretty good at going, oh, this is what's going to happen next. And most great films, even if I figure it out, it's so great that it never spoils it for me. But this one, I had no idea. It's not even plot-wise important what happens per se, but it all makes sense. Yep. It's all tied up. The narrative is all there from beginning, middle, and end. It's told in a very linear kind of narrative. It's a very straightforward narrative if you break it down.
Oh yeah.
But I had no idea what was going to happen, and when it did happen, I was like, yes, that makes perfect sense that should have happened. And then his performance is so off-kiltered in such a good way that I saw it differently. I saw the situation. Of course that should have happened to his partner at the end. Of course it should have. And then the way that he reacts to it, of course you should have been on guard from moment one that this was going to happen, and you're not. So it takes you,
Well, and I was thinking about so is this a descent into madness type movie? And it's like, no, it's not, because he's completely mad throughout the whole movie.
And I don't even know if that's the right term.
Well, not
because
mad, but
in his world,
he's broken, he's separated.
But here's what's so disturbing about it is that on the way home from the movie, because I called you right afterwards to say I wanted to talk about this movie, and I told you I went to Target to go look at Christmas ornaments because I was in such a disturbed mood that I needed something
to level out.
Yeah, I need a little Christmas, man, because this was. But here's what was disturbing about it on so many levels is that even though he was sociopathic, what he said made sense. If you followed his words, you would become a very successful person, because everything he said about business, everything he said about being focused, everything he said about his goals all made sense.
But he's bringing no emotion to it, and he's playing people. He's playing people, but not in the same way that like a salesperson will sell you something and like he's seeing that he's getting an emotional reaction from you. The Jake Gyllenhaal character is saying, I'm going to say this, and then you're going to think that, and then you're going to do this for me, and then I'm going to do that. I mean, he's got he's studied human beings like they are machines, and he is able to either manipulate or put them in situations where they don't have any other choice. Or
he puts them in situations where he already knows the outcome because he's already set it up as if you're going to say what he wants you to say.
And he knows what you're going to say. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, yeah. And even if you don't say what he thinks you're going to say, he already knows what you might say other than that.
Yeah.
It's
a chess match, and he knows all the moves.
It's disturbingly brilliant.
But it's the really creepy part is that there's no emotion. It's not like, oh, I thought you were going to do that. It's like, okay, let's just move to this other track or this other thing. And there's no...
He says it at the end. Of course this is what's happening. Of course I'm filming you.
Yeah.
Of course you had to be out of my business plan after you said what you said to us. He's like, of course. And you should have known that.
Yeah.
And that is way too much emotional content in my voice than he had.
Yeah, that's right.
He's flat. Wow. Have you ever seen anything like this, character-wise? What? Name it. Citizen Kane, maybe. But he's a little bit more epic in his emotional... Yeah. Ups and downs. This is not.
And I'm just thinking like Hannibal Lecter. I'm thinking like that kind of stuff where
you liked him,
but he has a humanity to him. Hannibal Lecter has emotion, and he obviously plays on your emotion as his subject, but he also has emotion and he has desires and he has hopes. Whereas it seemed like, this character just had bullet points. He had things that he had to, even the way that it was shot, like when he would come home after he shot an accident and he would edit it on his laptop and then he would send it off and he would record the what played out on TV and he would categorize it. The way that was shot was so like clinical. It felt like a hospital. It felt like something that was like
an
sterile.
Administrator who's putting in. No, I mean so and so broke its leg.
Well, like it was just sterile and clean and like just.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it just, there was no, like, he wasn't even happy that it was on TV. It was just like, that's what's supposed to happen now. It's happening now. I'm going to write down that it happened now. Let's go to the next thing.
I'm shaking because I'm so disturbed by that guy. I think I put some kind of defense mechanism in my brain afterwards because I really haven't thought about the film for a long time, and I'm glad because I think I had to be around another human being in order to discuss it because it is... I don't even know what the word is. Disturbing, unsettling, so forth and so on. Enough said about that.
You don't want to see it again?
I don't know. I mean, the performance needs to be studied by somebody who's
more in there.
Well, not only that, but somebody who's as interested in the craft of acting as I am. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how he got there. There are performances where I don't think I could have ever gotten there as an actor when I was doing it, but I can understand how the person got there. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman and Capote. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could have ever pulled something like that off. First of all, I don't look anything like Philip Seymour Hoffman or Capote, so I couldn't physically pull it off. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I could do the voice, but I can understand how Philip Seymour Hoffman got there. Mm-hmm. I can figure it out. The mechanics of it, how he got his voice to do what it did and then his body motions to do what it did and the emotional integrity. I can figure out how he did it. Mm-hmm. This one, I don't know what he did. It's not anything I've ever seen him do. So there's not a flick of an eyeball that reminded me of Jake Gyllenhaal. And I kept going, Love and Other Drugs, there's nothing there. Jarhead, there's nothing there. Brokeback Mountain, there's nothing there. There's no Jake Gyllenhaal in this film. And I've said this already in the beginning of the podcast. So do I want to see it again? I probably will see it again. Mm-hmm. Do I want to? That's a whole nother story. So
Rene Russo. Her husband is Dan Gilroy.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
I was wondering how she got.
How did she get this role? Why was she cast?
She's good.
The age that she's in. I'm not saying she's a bad actress, but that had something to do with it.
Okay, first of all, how old is she?
She is,
Because she's always looked mature.
but she's always been beautiful. Like, I mean, I remember her in Thomas Crown Affair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
And I think she looks great now. I'm not saying that she doesn't. I think that we were talking about this earlier in the Mockingjay part of the podcast, where how the guy shot the one scene influenced how it was emotionally read. And did you notice that in the beginning of the film, they shot her very stark? She looked almost a little bloated, and she looked very...
Had cakey makeup on.
yeah, and that was on purpose.
Yeah.
How old is she? Did you
60.
60? Yeah, she looks she looks good for 60. But interestingly enough, I saw this thing online, excuse me by the way, about I'm sorry, I got a frog in my throat all of a sudden.
He saw something about.
Sorry. Online about best supporting actress nominations that are going to be missed this year. One of them was the sister from Gone Girl. Ben
Oh,
Affleck.
okay.
Yeah, remember we talked
Yeah,
about
she's
that.
great.
That if she had maybe one or two more scenes, she might get noticed. I think this is one of those performances because I think Renee Russo. I think it's not going to get recognized, but it's the best work she's ever done. She first of all has to play against him and be so unaware of who he really is. Now, she as a character hasn't seen what we've seen as an audience
Yeah.
member, so she
She thinks he's just another stringer.
yeah, and they're all kind of a little off kilter. You can tell that by Bill Paxton's character. Yeah,
Who's
who's
great.
great. He's always great. I
He is always
love
great.
him.
He's been in a couple movies. He was in Edge of Tomorrow too. He was the drill sergeant type guy at the beginning.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Good. Always love seeing him. But I think that this performance is one of those performances that's well crafted, but it's going to go unnoticed because there's no epic moment, although she does have a moment or two. But I don't think people are going to think that she just did her job as an actress. I think it's a step above. Weirdly enough, I kept thinking of Cher. Like, what would have been like if Cher was in this part? I don't know why. Maybe it's something about Strong Woman or maybe Faye Dunaway from Network. I kept thinking of, but Renee Russo fit right in there for me. And for you, how about?
I enjoyed her once, but there was kind of a nagging thing, and then when I looked it up, I saw that she's Dan Gilroy's wife, and I was kind of like, well, I don't know the story behind that, but because I haven't seen her in many things recently, but I do remember when she was getting a lot of movies. I mean, it was Lethal Weapon 3 kind of started that, at least for me, like got me. She was in that movie, and then she was in 10 Cup, which she was really good in 10 Cup. Did you see that movie?
Yes, and then
And then she was in
Ransom.
Thomas Crown Affair. I didn't see Ransom.
Very good.
But so, yeah, I mean, she's in, and like the 90s were kind of her decade, I guess, and then it kind of started trailing off. But still, it's got to be tough, I guess. Maybe it's got to be tougher for women because as you get older, you don't have as many roles unless you're Meryl Streep or
There's this gap from like 35 into 55 where until you really age to where you look like an older lady, the society doesn't accept the 40-something-year-old, the 50-something-year-old as anything. There's no characters for them.
Yeah.
We don't
Which
have
is
it.
tough. That's
yeah,
bad.
it is bad. She does her job, and I think she does it well. And I think she is completely believable. And I think, you know who else I was thinking of was Katie Sagal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but see, I'm a big Sons of Anarchy fan.
So she's in the top of your mind.
Yeah,
right now,
well, not only that, but she's very strong. She's a very strong woman in a completely different way. She's more Jake Gyllenhaal-like in Sons of Anarchy than she is. Yeah. Gemma is a piece of work. Anyway, and deservedly so. She got a lot of critical praise for Sons of Anarchy, Katie Sagal. But very strong women roles are hard
Another
to...
wife of the creator / director
right. Smart, though.
Yeah.
He did that right. He was smart. He showed TV land what we didn't know Katie Sagal could do, but he did. See,
cool.
I had no problem believing that Renee Russo would have been able to play this part. So I think she's going to go missed for an Oscar nomination, but it's one of those ones that if it pops up, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Because she does do something... she plays the part. She does it right.
And then his sidekick is, I'm trying to pull it up here.
Another.
I've seen him in one other movie, which was a really interesting movie called Four Lions, and it was picked up by Alamo Drafthouse, who's like, they have these Eden theaters.
I know exactly what
in
you're talking about.
Austin,
Yeah.
And so they started releasing movies. In fact, I think Four Lions was the first movie that they released, and it's about these Muslim terrorists in London. And it's about the four main characters are the Muslim terrorists in London, and it's a comedy.
Is he British?
Yes,
He is?
Riz Ahmed. Yeah,
All right. Here's another one that if he showed up on the Oscar list, people would be like, who? But it's one of those performances that I wish people would notice for. These are the performances that I wish got noticed for award season when they don't ever. Because he's also on the Best Supporting Actor list of wishful thinking. We wish this person would be recognized because he's great in this.
I guess he's playing this kind of like dummy. I mean,
It's hard to do.
he's playing a motivationless, just wandering 20-something. And so
He has
I
to
don't
be
know.
in a car for 2 hours with Jake Gyllenhaal,
Oh, well, yeah,
putting up
no.
with that, and never. It takes a character like Renee Russo's character, who's so driven by her profession that she doesn't see humanity the way that she should. That's why Jake Gyllenhaal gets away with what he gets away with.
Yeah.
This young kid is so desperate to make $30 a night that he's avoiding what he sees in Jake Gyllenhaal because he needs something from Jake
All these
Gyllenhaal.
warning flags are popping up, and
Yeah.
he's like, eh.
Because he says it to him later on, dude, you look at things in a really strange way. You got to know that. And if he wasn't on point, I don't think Jake Gyllenhaal's performance would be as edgy and as well formed as it is. Because without him, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. When Jake Gyllenhaal goes into the murder scene, the shooting scene,
house.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the rich Granada Hills area, and then they're coming out down the driveway, and the kid is going, "Oh my God, I can't believe you went in there. What are you doing?" Blah blah blah. And Jake Gyllenhaal is lecturing him about this is
Leaving
how,
the car.
yeah, this is how you stay focused and all this other stuff. And the kid's like, "Are you kidding me? What is going on here?" Without his performance being on point, Jake Gyllenhaal wouldn't have been so magnified in his idiosyncrasies, for lack of a better term. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah. All right. And then Bill Paxton, we talked about him very quickly, but you're right. He's good in everything. And even like bad movies, you see Frailty.
Yeah, I
Matthew
liked
McConaughey.
it. I liked it.
It just wasn't
He
that great
directed.
of a movie. Did he really?
Yeah, he did. I liked it.
I don't know. Well, to me, it wasn't that great of a movie, but I thought that he still did well in that, and he's always an interesting. I mean, True Lies is just awesome. Just seeing him in that movie after seeing him in Aliens and in some other movies or Weird Science.
Yeah, I was just going to say Weird Science.
I mean,
yeah.
those movies, and then you see him in True Lies, and he's just a complete like blubbering idiot. and he's
brilliant.
able to pull it all off. All of it off.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Okay, well, I would say that that's probably a good way to end it, unless you have more to say.
I had just a couple real quick things. This is one of those films that, because there's 10 on the Best Picture list now, I hope it makes it to that list. I hope it
think it will?
I don't know. I don't think it will.
Okay.
But I think it should. It's going to be in my top 10 list of the year, no doubt about it. It's one of the most interesting films I have seen this year. They started to all come like they always do.
Oh, yeah.
They just start to roll out. But I wish that the director was nominated, and I wish that the screenplay was nominated, and I hope and pray Jake Gyllenhaal's nominated. I think he will be.
I think the screenplay may have a better chance than the director or the picture, but because of somebody had to put all that on paper, and Jake Gyllenhaal had to make that real, and those two things together, that is this movie.
Absolutely.
The words that he says and how he says them. That's it. I mean, that's it. Okay. All right. Well, if you want to check us out on the web, our website is actorandengineer.com. On Facebook, we're at facebook.com/actorandengineer. On Twitter, we're at actorengineer. And we'll see you next week.
Until then.
Bye.